Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface with Emergency Az number 32. Emergency Az videos, raw, reactionary type of videos to breaking news within gaming. Today, I'm going to be discussing the early access release of Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood. And because this is an Emergency Az video, it may contain fruity language, i.e. language of an adult nature. So if you are offended by such things, just don't listen to the video. Now, of course, Stormblood went into early access yesterday. Stormblood technically being the second expansion. I say technically because, you know, we know the tumultuous history of the Final Fantasy XIV MMORPG, the fall and the rise of Final Fantasy XIV. So technically, the second expansion for the game, following the critically acclaimed and very much acclaimed Heavensward, which arrived a couple of years previous to it. Now then, there are good things and there are bad things to discuss. As much as I love this game, I'm not going to try and push things under the carpet, and I think I'm going to have to start off with the negatives because they are quite important. They are very important indeed, to be perfectly honest with you. And I would be remiss if I didn't. And I do also believe that a lot of it is actually Square Enix's fault. It's of their own doing. These are things which could have potentially been handled better and dealt with better. And they kind of left it to the last minute and sort of not shot themselves in the foot per se, but have made the release of the early access not very smooth at all. Certainly if you compare it to the early access of Heavensward, or at least the release of Heavensward. I can't remember if there was an early access, but I do recall the release of Heavensward going rather smoothly comparative to other MMORPGs. So exactly what has been the problem? Well, in my eyes, Final Fantasy XIV is kind of the underdog MMORPG, or at least they view themselves as the underdog MMORPG, especially when you've got things like, you know, World of Warcraft, who... Well, you know, I'm not going to turn this into a World of Warcraft video, but for World of Warcraft, who have not done great things with the game for a number of years, but still managed to retain millions of viewers based on the brand alone, and also because of, you know, people scared to lose their characters after such a long time, the fear moving on. And I think Square view themselves as a little bit of an underdog against Final Fantasy, and they really should have a little bit more confidence in their product, especially when they saw how well received Heavensward was when it came out a couple of years back, and at one point how it really was dealing some big body blows to the World of Warcraft in terms of taking away its customer base. And if you think about WoD, Warlords of Draenor, in its lowest form, that game probably had around 3 million, possibly a little bit sub 3 million in terms of subscribers, and Heavensward, we know at one point had about 1.5 million concurrent subscribers. So if you put it in those sort of terminologies, it wasn't... Put it this way, the gap between WoW and the nearest MMORPG had never been so small. It probably hadn't been this small for nearly 7, 8, 9 years or more. So this was a huge, huge thing. But I didn't think they pressed their advantage further. I really think that Square should have pushed it. They really should have tried to get on platforms that they could show off the game, really get onto to platforms where you know, millions of people would associate, and where they could have probably given their game a little bit more of a push worldwide, as opposed to maybe being a little bit too Japanese centric. Although I think they do realise you know, the importance of the worldwide audience, but I really think they could have gone on, you know, and smacked it a little bit. And then we come to the early access of Stormblood, and they kind of play the underdog card again. Well, we don't know how many people are going to come back to the game, because obviously Heavensward would have lost subs throughout the course of its life. It seems to be a popular theme now. They didn't kind of give themselves enough credit about how many people came back. And also people who were new to the game, people who had pre-ordered, pre-purchased, I should say, the game, and therefore were going to get early access. And so we had humongous queue times when it came to getting in to the game itself. Now, the actual getting onto the servers didn't prove too problematic to begin with, if you tried to log on almost immediately. Now, I went about 1,400, 1,500 into the queue. However, it only took me about 6 or 7 minutes to actually log into the game from that higher number, which was pretty good. But then, once I was in, I wasn't logging out for no one. I did like a 6-hour stream yesterday, and I wasn't logging out for no one. I was keeping my position on the game. And so you started to hear stories of people not being able to log onto the data centers being too congested, so they couldn't get them off. So you could think to yourself, what could they have done prior to the release of this? Well, they tried to incentivize people to move off heavily populated servers and move to a new data center or to a new server which was less populated by offering them some sort of incentive, saying, hey, look, you can roll a brand new character, but we'll give you double EXP and we'll give you free play time for 15 days, and if you get to level 30, then we'll reward you with 1 million gil and all these kind of things. But they kind of announced these a couple of days before early access. Nobody wanted to leave their characters behind. These are things which should have been planned weeks and weeks and weeks in advance. We're talking June 16th, the early access launch. This stuff should have been dealt with in March, April. Saying, hey, look, these are the rewards. This is what we're looking to do. We're going to give you plenty of time. We're giving you a 3-month period to move over to another server, get a character up, ready for Stormblood as well. So that would have alleviated some of the potential congestion, but they didn't do that, which was a little bit silly on their behalf, but whatever. That happened too. But the bigger problem, because there are a lot of games that have server congestion. Legion, I think, had a great launch in terms of not being too many problems at all, but then you just have to go back to things like WoD and Cataclysm and stuff, and there were a lot of issues with logging into the games there. But WoW seemed to, or Blizzard certainly seemed to learn from the problems of WoD, and Legion was a very smooth release for an expansion. In actual fact, probably the smoothest I've ever known a game. But it wasn't just server congestion. The instances broke because there were so many people. They just didn't give themselves enough credit for how many people were going to start playing again. And because the game was just absolutely peppered, it pulled down all the instance servers. So anything that required an instance, dungeons, storyline quests, Palace of the Dead, all these ways of leveling up, were suddenly taken away from everybody. And with 2 brand new classes arriving, the Samurai, which you can see me running around on the screen right now, and the Red Mage, who's also in this party that I'm in now. I'm just kind of giving you an idea of how much pew there is between these 2 classes right now. Don't worry about the style of play. I'm sort of like I'd just woken up when I recorded this. Because of the popularity of the 2 new characters as well, the only way to really level them up was to go out fate farming. And because the way that Final Fantasy works is off a grid system, so you could literally have thousands of people in one spot, but they operate off a grid system. So whoever's in your kind of like grid, you can see up to like 100 people. But if you move into a new grid, which may be just a few feet in front of you, you'll see more people spawn in and then other people spawn out who were behind you. The people that you're moving away from spawn out, other people spawn in. So you were doing these fate farms that literally thousands of people were on, and the mobs were phasing in and out, and it's a real ball ache. Now, they managed to put a few patch fixes in. When I say patch fixes, I don't mean physical patch fixes. They managed to put some band-aids on some of it, and they got people back into the instant servers for dungeons and Palace of the Dead and such. And also some character stories. Like my Samurai, I was able to do the level 50 quest, I was able to do the 52 quest, and I was able to do the level 54 quest. I'm pushing to 56, and that's when the next one is. Will it become available? Fingers crossed it does. But main story quest broken. So people looking to do the main storyline can't proceed at the moment, and there does seem to be some issues. Now, to the credit, Square have said, look, we're on to this, and they are giving us very regular updates as to what's going on. And I absolutely fully believe 100% that they are just working their fucking asses off right now to get these things working. But as to when they're going to be available, I don't know. Now, this is early access to people who have pre-purchased, so we've already forked out as cash. The expansion doesn't officially release until Tuesday, the 20th of June. That's when more people are going to start coming in. Obviously, people who still don't have Stormblood can log into the game right now. But they won't be able to push on into Alamigo and such until they actually purchase the expansion. So Tuesday is going to be very interesting indeed when there is a further influx of players moving into Alamigo and beyond into the brand new contents. So that's going to be a little bit, wipe my brow, sweat is a-dripping for Square Enix. And we'll just have to see how that turns out. Now, let's move on then to the positive side. So there's a big negative, but at the same time, if you're leveling up, there are some fixes at the moment that you can continue to level up, but it could have been dealt with so much better. Square, don't view yourself as the underdog. You've seen how popular the product can be. You've got to get these things prepared way in advance. Way in advance. Not a couple of days before early access releases. Hey, folks, this is what we're going to do. This has got to be done months. 2-3 months in advance. Right, so let's move on to some positives. Samurai and Red Mage are fucking awesome. I mean, they have, in my eyes anyway, completely surpassed how good I thought they were going to be. Some of my free company mates have rolled Red Mages, and we've done Palace of the Dead together, and we've had great fun. I've rolled a Samurai. I love the fluidity of the Samurai, and I've got to say that a lot of these compliments about how the classes are playing have got to be put down to the new class system. You can see on the screen I've got this trifecta. I like to call it the trifecta of runes, which if I use certain abilities will light up. If I light up one, I have access to one ability. If I access two, I've got access to another. If I have all three, I've got access to a real powerful ability. The sword builds up that allows me to do other things, which increases strength. So there's lots of little nuances with the combat that doesn't feel lost with the game, because the game did have a really good combat system. But the way that they've streamlined a lot of it, and the way that they've tweaked it, so you've got these very, very visual animations about what's going on with your actual class has to me made the combat so much more fun in this game. And if you listen to people who have a criticism of Final Fantasy XIV, I think their biggest criticism is the combat. I don't like it, it's too slow, it just feels a bit slow. I get that a lot, I hear that a lot. But with this new combat system, even when I played a little bit on my Machinist as well, which was level 60, so I could push a little bit into Alamigo while they were sorting out some of the problems before I could go back onto my Samurai. Even the Machinist feels so much better. Now they have this overheat gauge and all this kind of jazz, and you've got your ammo buttons so you can physically see when you've got your additional ammo bullets, which is giving extra damage, and yada yada yada. So the combat system improvements have been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Huge kudos to Square Enix for that. And then, as I said, coupled with the fact that Red Mage seems to be playing really well, very powerful indeed. They probably might have to look at that at some point. And the Samurai is so much fun as well. These are two extraordinary additions to the game. The only problem being they're both DPS classes. And there are going to be some huge queues when it comes to dungeoneering, because we don't know how many tanks probably would have been lost from the game to move to these new classes as well. So yeah, my experience in dungeon queuing already has been rather exhausted. Please roll tanks, people. I can imagine next expansion is going to be healer, tank, or something like that. Or tank healer, that's it. They're going to be the new classes to get people on board. From what I've seen of the new areas, which isn't a huge amount, because I am pushing my Samurai on, because I do want to move my samurai to be my main character and make that my first level 70 and all that kind of stuff. But for what I've seen initially of Alamigo, the zones are looking like they're going to be fantastic. They do look like they're going to be fantastic. I am very excited for where Stormblood's going to lead. Very excited indeed for where Stormblood's going to lead. So if I just leave it at that. So negatives, huge negatives when it comes to the queuing. When it comes to the data centers being too congested to take even people to log on. With the breakings of the instances, you know, that goes down to technical issues, and they really should have got that better prepared. They certainly should have been better prepared in terms of numbers, because the numbers that they got from A Realm Reborn bouncing into Heaven's Ward was colossal. Colossal. They should have expected that again. They should have expected, with brand new content coming, brand new expansion, new leveling, they really should have expected more. They should have been better prepared with that. But two amazing new additions to the class system with Red Mage and Samurai, and wonderful changes to the combat. Just wonderful changes to the combat, which to me give the game a whole new lease of life and make it feel fantastic. So early access, probably a C- in terms of getting things ready for launch. That's a C- Square. Be prepared, be better. The only thing I can say is you've got a second-ish chance on Tuesday. Make sure it goes according to plan, hey? So there we go. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do get a thumbs up and also subscribe. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links in the description down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care, everyone. Bye for now.